Hello, how's it going? Back with the fifth episode of the first season of the X-Files, and it is called The Jersey Devil. So, this is the first episode that really digs into the kind of urban myth type territory. So, the Jersey Devil is a similar sort of idea to the legend of, well, I guess Bigfoot, or maybe more farcical, the Loch Ness Monster, but obviously closer to the legend of Bigfoot. And actually, I'm informed by someone I know online that there is actually a Jersey Devil legend. It was something, many years ago that was rumoured to be a thing. If you lived in New Jersey, you would have known about it growing up at a certain point. So, yeah, this is obviously one of those cases where they've taken a real, myth, a real legend, which supposedly was a thing. There was obviously rumours of people actually seeing it, but never actually confirmed. And they've put it in the episode. And I think what's actually quite cool about the X-Files at times is they do use a lot of that stuff. They do bring a lot of real case, unexplained, phenomenal cases and use it to the X-Files. And obviously they heighten it and they twist things and mould it into a story all of their own. But they do actually take those real life cases and use them in the X-Files, in the fiction of the X-Files. So that's something I've always quite digged about this show, because it does have that hint of authenticity to it. I guess that's partly why that they kind of have a documentary style feel at times as well, with the case names and the file numbers and the way the location and everything appears on screen. So that's quite a cool little touch. And I sort of think of this episode as always being very watchable. I kind of enjoy watching it on rewatches, but I sort of think of it more as a light-hearted, quite a fun little watch, which passes the time rather than it being anything like that fantastic. I think the actual monster of the week, the central premise is, I think when you get into it, it's maybe a bit too cheesy, a bit too hokey to really take seriously. So I mean, it's based on this legend of the Jersey Devil that attacks people in the woods. It comes out every so often. It has supposedly it has a family, and it almost has a similar look to maybe a caveman, except with obviously hair and stuff. And what this episode is digging into is something which a lot of these science fiction type shows do get into at some point, and that is this idea of how far removed human beings are from the original, mammals and the original beings. And this is something which Mulder and Scully argue during the episode, because Mulder is of the belief then the Jersey Devil is not only real, but then it shares so much of our intelligence, that this isn't just a creature. This has many of the human emotions and characteristics. So again, Mulder as the believer and the sensitive one, when other people in the episodes dismiss it as an animal and as a rabid animal and something that should be put down, like we get with the local sheriff, then Mulder's very sensitive to this, and he's almost defending the rights of the Jersey Devil in a way. He certainly I think he sees it as something to be like explored, like contained, and that's not the feeling of a lot of people in the episode. But it's a debate between him and Scully at some point. First of all, is this thing real? And if it is it really that close to what we think of as humans? So I quite enjoy that stuff. But at the same time, the actual Jersey Devil, the actual monster, it is kind of cheesy, and there's probably only so much you can do with the concept. And that's why I think the episode is just passable. It's just fine. It's an enjoyable watch, but it's not anything more than that. And I think it's one of those where the longer it goes on and the closer you get to seeing the Jersey Devil and you actually get to see it, that's when kind of the mystique and the suspense is sort of like blown, and it's at that point where it does look a bit silly, and you can't really avoid that. It's very difficult, especially working on the sort of budget they were at this point in the X-Files life. It's very hard for it not to look silly. So that's definitely an issue when it gets to the point of the episode where you actually see it. That's a drawback. I think this episode is most successful with the character beats, the character stuff. Mulder and Scully, they do this particular plot where Mulder, they go down to Atlantic City where this, legend supposedly is. And first of all, there's actually a flashback to 1947 in New Jersey where a family are on like a camping trip into the woods. And they're kind of singing that jolly little campfire song, whatever it is, however it goes, but you know the one I mean, before they're attacked by the New Jersey Devil. And it then obviously fast forwards back to the present, to the 90s, and this legend like resurfacing. So Mulder and Scully come out because he obviously suspects this could be an X-Files. He tells her about the legend of the New Jersey Devil, and they get a hostile like reception from this, as well, I don't know if he's a local sheriff, but something to do with the local police department. And the actor I've seen in a couple of other things. He's in Melrose Place, of all things, as Amanda's like father. He always, I think, mostly seems to play quite sleazy sort of characters. So he's very well suited to the part in this. But he is kind of Mulder's like opposition in trying to block this. And trying to, first of all, he tries to squash any theory of, Jersey Devil, that's all like folklore. And then later on, when it's kind of revealed that there is something out there, he's very much about killing it off, essentially, getting to it before Mulder and Scully. But yeah, he acts as this like opposition to Mulder constantly, and you get this quite interesting sort of thing where Scully actually goes back to the city, or goes back to Washington, because she says, "Sorry, Mulder, I've got plans. I've got like I think it's like her nephew or something, or someone, who she knows, their kid's like birthday party that she's agreed to help out at. Because I guess it's like the weekend and they've gone down on a weekend. So she said, sorry, I've got plans. I actually do have a life. And it's then that Mulder decides to stay in Atlantic City over the weekend and investigate these things. And what this sets up is quite a nice little dynamic where Scully and Mulder are separated, at least for part of the episode, and you see Scully at this birthday party, and her friends obviously got kids, and it's all a bit of mayhem, and they're kind of talking about, well, I'm impressed how you do this. I couldn't really do this. So the idea of Scully maybe actually one day having children, having a family life and settling down. And at one point she goes on the date with this guy who her friend like sets them up kind of thing. So there's this tension between Mulder and the X-File in New Jersey, and obviously him trying to get Scully's help, and just this tension because on the one hand it's like this crossroads almost where she's trying to balance having a normal life with her professional life, but at the same time the X-Files and Mulder is kind of calling her. And by the end of the episode, there's almost like she gives into it. There is a statement where she says, yeah, not the right guy or something, or not at this time, even though the date sort of goes alright with the guy and he seems nice enough, but you get the impression there's no real chemistry. Or I think you're maybe meant to believe it goes well and she's considering, seeing him again and stuff, but she ultimately makes the decision not to. That the work and the thing with Mulder is like more important. And it's kind of just a quirky little beat at the end of the episode. It stands out a bit, but it's a nice enough scene when she makes that decision. But yeah, I do like the character stuff in that regards. I like how you get, like, as I said, this crossroad type thing, and you get this potential path for Scully. It's almost like she's facing this crossroads. Which direction will she go? It's almost a bit like, I mean, it's not the same, but it's a bit like Buffy in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and with Cordelia being her kind of former self in a way, and this way of thinking where you could either go back to that way of life and make that decision, or you could go the other way. You could follow your destiny down this other sort of path. So I thought that was quite an interesting thing for them to do with Scully in this episode. At the same time, it really again pushes Mulder as being this kind of almost like renegade, this kind of rebel, because he goes off the map sort of thing, stays in Jersey for the weekend, and again really shakes things up, gets into trouble. He gets arrested at one point, and the kind of obnoxious like guy is really putting the heat on him. But I kind of like some of the ideas Mulder comes out with, some of the conspiracy stuff, because he basically has this idea that the reason local police and authorities are trying to cover this up is because it's a casino town, and they're worried it'll like scare the tourists away if they hear about like this monster, this creature out there. So I quite like that idea, and the like conspiracy theory angle from Mulder, even though the guy kind of dismisses it and says you're crazy sort of thing. Another nice little touch is that there is actually like a local sort of ranger who Mulder meets in the woods at the scene, who actually says to him, I wouldn't say any of this because I'm, not far off retirement and I don't want to rock the boat, but I've heard stories of the Jersey Devil, and I've kind of seen something similar, or at least I thought I did. So it's actually quite refreshing that here is someone in local law enforcement who, for a change, sort of takes Mulder's side and believes in him and believes in this stuff, rather than trying to block him all the time and dismissing it as like paranoia. So that's kind of cool. And he actually helps like Mulder and Scully later in the episode when they're trying to catch up with the New Jersey Devil, and at the same time the other guys are trying to catch up with like Mulder and Scully and trying to stop this whole thing. So he actually like protects them. So that's pretty cool. I think the line of the episode is definitely the homeless guy, because at one point Mulder obviously goes to the location where there was supposedly a sighting on the street, and it's like this rough kind of homeless type shelter place, and he asked this guy, to describe it and where you saw it, that sort of thing. And you get this funny little thing where it's like a picture he's drawn, which is quite sort of funny. But Mulder actually gives him his room key for the night and says, yeah, you can take my hotel room. And he actually takes his place at the thing to try and camp out and wait to see if the devil shows up. And I like the guy's line, because he's like, hey, do they have HBO? And Mulder just sort of chuckles and says, yeah, I think they do. So I really like that line. And that actor I actually recognise. I think he's another sort of character actor that's been in a lot. But yeah, there's some pretty good stuff. I mean, the professor who Scully knows it's like a contact, and they go to talk about this legend, this idea of like these kind of animals, mammals almost, that were bred from humans or similar, and left out in captivity. He has definitely a very nerdy, like Jeff Goldblum type look, which I kind of appreciated. The ponytail was a bit scary though, but yeah, they go to him at one point and give certain things. But there's this kind of twist where it's revealed that the Jersey Devil is like actually a female, and that it gave birth, and it's actually trying to protect its offspring, basically its male. And that's again is another attempt to make you feel a bit more sympathetic, because it's actually a mother protecting like her offspring sort of thing. So that's, I mean, there's not really a great deal to talk about in the episode. It's solid. I definitely, the stuff with Mulder and Scully, not for the first time, was the strongest, but I like the idea of Scully, like flirting with having a regular social life, and obviously by the end she kind of puts that on the back burner. It's like, no, okay, my path is with the X-Files and with Mulder for the time being at least. And I kind of like a lot of Mulder's like stuff in New Jersey, him being this kind of rebel and the whole thing with that. But the actual gimmick, the actual monster of the week, isn't really that interesting. It's a little bit cheesy. I think it's just a watchable episode. It's probably not much more than that. So not that memorable in a way, but solid enough. So I'll give it a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10, I think, sounds about right for the Jersey Devil. So let me know if you agree in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And just so you know, I'm trying to do an episode of the X-Files a week, because there's so many of them, at least one a week. And I guess all I need to do now is rank it, because I am ranking every X-Files episode ever. And I guess this one goes somewhere in the middle of the pack. I think it's better than the pilot. I think I like Deep Throat a little bit more, but I do like it better than Conduit. So I think Squeeze is definitely still the best quite easily, but yeah, I like it better than Conduit, not as much as Deep Throat. I like it better than the pilot. So where are we? 5. So yeah, see, I have to sort of but Squeeze, Deep Throat. So that's 5. So it's number 3 on the list. Sorry, I had to work that out quickly. Jersey Devil goes in at number 3. So it's just above the pilot, and under Deep Throat. So they have it. That's the Jersey Devil. Let me know if you agree, as I said, and look out for more X-Files reviews coming soon. The next episode will be episode 6 of season 1, which will be Shadow. So if you want to get that watched in time for the review, which should be sometime next week, then do so, and you can join me for that. Also, this coming week, this Monday, I will be watching the first episode of the new HBO series Lovecraft Country with J.J. Ambrose and Jordan Peele both involved, so I'm excited for that. So look out for the first review of that this week. Also, more classic type shows. I've been working my way through the Gilmore Girls quite slowly. Not done an episode of that for a while, but I'll try and get back into that maybe this week. And also Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well. I've been working my way through those. So those are a couple of other older shows I review. But I'll be back with more X-Files soon. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.